Let's go over to breakout player. And these are the three that I'm really excited to get your opinion on because I feel like maybe not breakout player, but most improved and best newcomer. I feel like I have somebody that you're not even thinking of. So let's start with breakout player. Who do you got, Horwat?
I think we're going to see it early. It's going to be Joel Blomqvist stepping in into in a brief role, but he's going to push the envelope a bit. I could see it being interesting. We don't know how long Nedeljkovic is going to be out, but even if Blomqvist plays 3 or 4 games, maybe 2 or 3, if he goes 2-0, 3-0, and impresses, and then goes back to the minors and impresses a little more and forces his hand to get a call up somewhere along the way, then he's got more traction. I think it's going to be an underrated breakout season from the rookie goalie, and could be fun. And it's a bit of a stretch to say Joel Blomqvist, who's third in line, is going to be the breakout, but he's going to have an early opportunity, and he's got to take quick advantage of it.
Yeah, can he have that Philip Gustafson year from a couple years ago where he comes up even though there's an established goaltender in Marc-Andre Fleury, and he just says, you can't not start him a lion's share of these games. I mean, it would be a bookend, right? He's going to start the year at the NHL level, or at least we expect him to start the year at the NHL level now due to Alex Nedeljkovic's injury. And then, if this holds true and he is the breakout player, that means by the end of the season, he's up and he's not just a number 2, but probably a 1B. So whether that's Nedeljkovic or Jarry, again, where I'm not going to make you, crystal ball that entire situation, but I'd be interested, and I would obviously love to see a rookie goaltender come up and be that good for the Penguins, because that just opens up possibilities for Kyle Dubas to help build this team into the future, as well as really shape it next season. But again, don't want to get the cart in front of the horse for that one. My breakout player this year, I think, is more aligned with what most people are expecting from this position, Rutger McGroarty. I mean, I am bullish on this kid. He has not lit the world on fire throughout the preseason, but I still hold true to what I said last week during bold predictions. I mean, he is going to start the season at the AHL level. He's going to be up before November 1st, and he's still going to score 20 plus goals. And if that's the case, he is your breakout player. There is no way anybody else is going to be able to break out more than that from a college player last year to a 20 plus goal scorer this year. Again, lofty expectations, but I just feel like even if he doesn't get to that, he's going to establish himself as that everyday NHLer. And I think by the end of the year, he's going to establish himself as an everyday top 6 player. And how can you not go from, those two polar opposites from where he was last year to this year, if that happens, and not say he's the breakout player? It's a similar path to what Drew O'Connor took, where he was the third line player at the start of last season, and he was bona fide number 1 left wing on the Penguins by game 82.
Yeah, and that will go along the lines of what I said last episode as well, which was he'll start in the AHL, fine, but then he'll eventually get that quick call up. And I said play most of the season with Sidney Crosby and maybe even fight for the Calder Trophy, which is why also I penned him in as the best newcomer. Got to remember, he wasn't here last season. He wasn't even in the organization. He was a Winnipeg Jet. So, that's kind of why I wanted to separate the breakout player, because you're right. I thought him as the breakout player at first as well, but then remembered he's technically also a newcomer. So, going to cheat a bit and have a different answer here.
Yeah.
So for all those reasons you said, for all the things that I said last episode about him, and because he was a Jet last year and the Penguins traded off Braden Yeager for him, giving him the best newcomer this year.
Alrighty, I like that. For best newcomer, listen, we talked about it with Smitty. Cautiously optimistic about how this player is going to perform, but at the same time, if the Penguins took a chance on him to put him in that position, again, only a 1-year deal, so not the biggest chance, but they took a chance on him. So will I. Best newcomer for the Penguins this year, Matt Grzelcyk. Again, I've liked what I've seen. It hasn't been perfect in preseason, but I like the chemistry between him and Kris Letang early on. I think there's obviously steps to be made and strides to be taken for these guys. But to this point, I'm cautiously optimistic about Matt Grzelcyk, more so than I was. I don't want to say more so, because I was very excited about Ryan Graves last year and then smacked me in the face on opening night. But I'm cautiously optimistic about Grzelcyk. I think that he fits a little bit better with Kris Letang than Graves did. So we'll see how it goes, but I'm going to say he's the best newcomer.
Ryan Graves humbled you a bit.
Yeah, otherwise I would have been a little bit more confident about this because I'm just like, defenseman. I was so off last year. maybe I'm not as off this year, but hopefully Matt Grzelcyk works out, because if he doesn't, the Penguins are in, as we talked about with Smitty, they are in deep crap.
Mm-hmm. So. And I mean, the options for newcomer, there's a ton of them: Blake Lizotte, Kevin Hayes, Cody Glass, Rutger McGroarty, Matt Grzelcyk, Sebastian Aho, if you really wanted to, and any other, Anthony Beauvillier, depth defenseman. There's enough names to go around.
You could throw in there guys like Ponomarev and Koivunen and Blomqvist, because who knows, potentially at some point this season, if they get an opportunity and they run with it, they could be there. I think that's where they're at in their current development path. So, these are players that are all knocking on the door. If they step in and they get comfortable, it's going to be hard to kick them out.
Yeah, it will be.
Let's finish this episode off and all of these predictions off. Again, part of prediction weeks here at Tip of the Ice-Burgh. We had our bold predictions last week. Go back and listen to that if you're interested. We have our season predictions this week. And then on Tuesday, we'll have our league predictions, which are always a little bit of fun. But let's close out the Penguins season predictions with the most improved player. Horwat, who you got?
I had a couple of names written down, but I want to go with the strangest one because his position in the lineup is awkward at the moment. Noel Acciari. Now, he had a fine season last year defensively, but then injuries piled up. The offense obviously wasn't there, and it wasn't going to be there. Kyle Dubas stood so hard on, he's not here to score goals, guys. And that may continue into this season. Like I said, his position in the lineup isn't necessarily guaranteed. He's not even in this lineup that I'm looking at from Daily Faceoff. But, I mean, come on. We all kind of expect him to be in there, right? Just because of the way Kyle Dubas looks at him, because of the style of game that he plays very well with what Mike Sullivan likes from his depth guys. I could see Noel Acciari adding another level of intensity to his defensive game. He was a key to that penalty kill for a while. Let's not forget that too. If that can continue into this season, and maybe he bangs home a few more goals, adds a few extra points, especially if he's playing with Lars Eller, that's extremely possible. That'll be just a step in the right direction. Big braining, most improved would be Sidney Crosby, considering we had him gaining 20 points basically.
Yeah. I like the Noel Acciari pick, though. I think that's an underrated one where, I mean, look, he scored 2 goals on Monday. I mean, right? That's almost as many goals as he scored all of last season. But, moving him over to the wing, everybody, I think, was in agreement that that's probably what's best for him. And the Penguins now agree because they've put him on the wing through most of the preseason. And you would imagine that's where he's going to stay once the regular season begins, especially with the amount of options that they have to take faceoffs at center ice. Even with Blake Lizotte down, you would imagine that Acciari stays over on the wing and they run, whether it's Eller, Hayes, whoever, as that fourth line center. But for most improved, I'm going with my guy. I'm going with a guy whose spot in the lineup is not guaranteed at this moment in time because he has not had the above and beyond preseason that some of the other players that are in competition for this spot have been. But I'm going with Valtteri Puustinen. Last year, 5 goals, 20 points in 52 games. There were certain stretches where you looked at him and said, there's no way he's not an NHL player going forward. Maybe he shouldn't go back to the AHL ever again. Well, you look at what's been added over the offseason, and there's a lot of question marks as to where he fits into this lineup and where he fits onto this roster and whether or not he might have to start the season at the AHL, whether or not he might get claimed off of waivers if he gets placed on him. So I think there's a lot of question marks, but I think the Penguins, if they're able to hold on to him, I think he finds that goal-scoring touch this season. I mean, whenever they went out there and got Kevin Hayes, I said that is a great thing for Valtteri Puustinen, not to really downplay the effect that Lars Eller had on this team last year, because I thought he was one of the best third-line centers they've had in a long time. He just isn't the type of player that's going to set you up with a lot of great goal-scoring looks. Kevin Hayes, more inclined to do things like that. So I think if you can get Puustinen up and on that third line spot, I think that you're going to see him score a lot more than he did last season. I mean, 5 goals in 52 games is far below a guy of his skill set. But again, that was his first foray into everyday NHL playing. This year, with that experience behind him, once he gets that opportunity, I think he's going to take it and run with it. And I expect big things from Valtteri Puustinen this season.
Yeah, same. He was another name that I had on my short list of most improved because there are some high expectations for him. There were some high expectations last season. He just wasn't quite meeting them. If he's able to get on the right path and shoot the puck a lot more, which is basically what Mike Sullivan wants from him, it shouldn't be any issue that he finds great improvement, finds the back of the net a little more. And we already know he can, set guys up. 15 assists, a ton of them came all at once, I think.
Yeah.
It was a good stretch for him. If he's able to maintain that sort of pace and even add to it, there's no reason why he shouldn't be on this team. It'll be tough for him to still make the team because there's so many options, but you like what you saw from him last year, and you hope that sort of momentum is carried into if he makes the team or wherever he goes. I would think he gets claimed, by the way. I don't know why.
Because he's a good young player.
And a ton of teams need depth help. A ton of teams need depth help. There's a lot of great teams in this league.
Yeah.
I mean, the Oilers are really good, but
exactly where I was going. You're telling me the Oilers wouldn't want Puustinen on their third line? Come on now.
Exactly. Like, the Oilers are so good and might win the President's Trophy, but on the backs of two top forward lines, Evan Bouchard, and outscoring their problems.
Yeah.
I mean, not that Valtteri Puustinen provides a level of defense, but they need something in their depth that they just don't have, and yet they still might win the President's Trophy / the Stanley Cup.
Listen, his analytic numbers are they're pretty. They look good. I mean, that's not one-to-one defense, and a lot of that is playing with the majority of his minutes alongside, Lars Eller, which helps a lot, and Riley Smith, I believe, also for a large portion of time, who, for all his woes last year, pretty defensively responsible. So I would say that helps. But hey, listen, numbers don't lie, and those are the numbers on Valtteri Puustinen.